What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Rosalie. Welcome to the Ultimate YouTube channel. We go all around the world to explore music, psychology, philosophy. I'm happy that you're here. I hope you did subscribe. I discovered this band thanks to you guys several months back, and I was mind blown. I did not expect For Wings of Marie, Part 1 and 2, to hit me as personal and as profound as it did. I was ugly crying. It makes for great music in the background when we're rolling to jujitsu, when we're rolling at our jujitsu training. Absolutely perfect to talk about in this channel and what we're about. So let's check this out together. Tool, Lateralus. What does the word Lateralus mean? For one, it's the third studio album by Tool, released in 2001. It's considered a masterpiece of progressive metal, known for the complex musical structures and the philosophical and thematic depth. It's a play on the word lateral. Okay, that makes sense. Lateral to the side. And often refers to the idea of lateral thinking outside the box or approaching problems from a new perspective. I like that. I can get down to stuff like that. Okay, I guess we're going to check it out. The imagery is wild. They're so unique with the sound effects and the elements they integrate into their music. Almost like sounds like banging on these thin sheets of metal. You know how how it wobbles and the sound waves travel? Someone's banging, trying to get in perhaps. Ooh, the bass. I'm going to pause here real quick for copyright reasons, but also you came for a review. I am fascinated by their compositions that build up that crescendo in the beginning, those sound effects and that, transition into the drums, the time signature of the drums and that angst, excitement, anxiety, the mix of the two build up that they're giving us. The voice, so unique. Maynard James Keener is such a genius in my book, and I love the fact that he does jujitsu too, black belt in jujitsu from what I remember under learning. I'm fascinated by these compositions, and even how, and this is so artistic to me, how they're breaking apart and the cadence flow of the singing, the black and white, and in my infancy, all I see, right? The rhyming in a literary art, but the way that it's broken up from the cadence flow rhythmically is so interesting and playful. Very profound lyrics, and brilliant to talk about as above, so below. If we're speaking about the Lateralus and this idea of something being lateral, a lot of poetry here, a lot of depth. There's something so other about Tool, something so mysterious, different. How can it be that their compositions are so dang intricate? Every element, every segment, every instrument, this masterpiece in and of itself. I can't, you know what's wild is I want to analyze this, and then I hear him singing about overthinking and overanalyzing. And I'm so humbled because I see this imagery and I hear the lyrics and I'm like, maybe this is just meant to be this type of art you just are in awe of and you take in, and you can't analyze. You can't even start to try to comprehend. And it's really humbling because you came here for a review, and we will look at the lyrics, so don't go anywhere. Make sure to subscribe, and go, if you haven't yet, though I'm assuming you have, subscribe to Tool and go check them out on YouTube and social media. But I'm really humbled and impressed at the intricacies from the musical compositional standpoint. I'm losing my mind, to the lyrics. But it's so funny to listen, and trying to listen from like an analytical standpoint, and then hear him say we're overanalyzing things, separating what is it, body from the mind. And it makes me think of how everything really is one, and so much more connected than we realize. It's kind of like when you start studying various fields of science and you see the parallels between the trees and networks and roots, and the way our organs and livers, our lungs are set up, and the intricacies of our veins and our blood and the neurons in our brain. I mean, even this image of this person, and that idea, the play on the third eye type of thing, the eyes all around, very mystical, very mysterious. It's really humbling when you learn about these things more and more, and it makes you just, your brain just explodes. And that's kind of how I feel like what Tool's music does to me. It's funny because I'm sitting here listening to music that there was a time I don't think I could have ever seen myself listening to something like this, and I'm falling in love with this music. It's wild. Now it's almost like we're starting over. Something new. They're so dang artistic. So just love for music. Oh. These lyrics. so dang good. My brain is all over the place. Where do I even begin? I love the font where it says Lateralus and the play that band, that thick line between the letters Lateralus almost makes me think of the musical Do Re Mi Fa So, but it also, I love that band, that connection between each letter and then that abrupt ending. It's so fitting to the patterns that I'm seeing here and that conversation about patterns and about our longing for the things that bewilder us and about, oh my goodness. I feel like I think for anyone where just simple answers or boxed in ways of looking at the world have not been sufficient, I feel like this just hits so deep, more than words can say. That connection between the letters, that thick lettering, that shows a connection between individual letters, that ties it all together, and yet abrupt interruptions in between that break it apart is so fitting to what life is, where we are looking for things to be connected, for things to fit, to make sense of words and letters, and at the same time things are separate. It's both and. I see the play on this human body, a nod to science perhaps, to a human who's looking to make sense of this world. We're all in search for meaning and for answers, and there's science where we can literally take bodies apart and see the veins and see the flesh and see the eyeballs and the bones and try to understand. But then there's also parts that we can't simply just explain away with basic science because they're deeper, and the eye and the hand to me fits to this third eye play, to the search for spirituality, for what's beyond, reaching, as he says, I keep reaching for what bewilders me. It's such a human thing to want to reach further than just saying, well, I'm a body and this is my blood and these are my veins. It's this desire to reach further. It's a very spiritual and symbolic way to raise your hands. It makes me think of religion too, in the way that religious leaders, popes and the like, might raise their hand to bless somebody. But it also makes me think of that desire to reach for the things we cannot see with our human eye, that desire to understand what's beyond our grasp, and the play on things being lateral, but then saying spiral out. I didn't think I was going to cry for this one, and because it was not thematically like Wings of Marie, but I was at the verge of tears at the end, because that repetitive spiraling way of saying spiral out spoke to me, because for someone who believes that things are so much more connected and intricate than we realize, it's comforting to be encouraged to say, keep reaching, keep stretching, keep spiraling out. It's not all just linear. We have our tendency to say, as above, so below. We have our tendency to look at life linear, and we forget just how cyclical it is. And it's scary sometimes. And yes, there's a time and a place for everything. I can't just be sitting here spiraling out about the universe all day, every day. My kids need to eat, and money needs to be made, and bills need to be paid. But there's also a time and place to allow ourselves to dare to consider that things are much more intricate and together, and that we are not just bodies. That this aura around this body makes me think of energy. It makes me think of frequency. All these eyeballs, that piercing light from the top to the bottom, as above so below, perhaps, that is piercing into the core of this person, maybe a nod to our connection to the divine, our longing for God, our longing for what's above. The spiral around this beam of light, also very fitting to the idea of spiraling. The way that fire wraps around things, the way that everything in the universe is cyclical. So many things are patterns, cyclical patterns, the triangle, many, many patterns, the hexagon that we find a lot in nature, a lot of sacred geometry and things. And I mean that in the sense of that field of study that people are into, but also in the sense of the actual words. It's sacred, it's divine, and it's geometrical. A lot of just powerful spirituality here. And I think there's something about not only their lyrics and this imagery, but the whole composition as a whole that feels very philosophical and very much out there. And like I said, it's funny to me because there would have been a time when I might have considered this sounding kind of dark and off-putting and weird and too unfamiliar to embrace. And the older that I get and the more that I consider that it's okay to not understand, and it's okay to be hungry to know. And that's the part why I was getting ready to get teared up, because it's comforting to be reminded it's okay to not understand everything, and to be looking for God for answers, and to not have reached them yet, and that it's okay to keep spiraling out. The lyrics say, black then white are all I see in my infancy. And I see so much double entendre here. It makes me think of the actual development of an actual infant who doesn't perceive light properly at first, and gradually the retina and all the parts of the eyes develop. Same thing with the pigmentation when a baby is born, right? The pigmentation of the skin of the eyes gradually transforms into what it's going to be in their life. But also on a spiritual sense, in the infancy of our understanding, we see things in black and white. When we are in a place in life where we're very much about the black and white, this is right, this is wrong, this is how it should be, this is how it not should be. Dare I might say that sometimes may be a sign that there is still elements of infancy, in the sense of that the more mature we get, the older we get, the more we move on past infancy in the emotional, spiritual sense. I'm not talking actual infancy. That we start seeing more color, we start understanding more, and the imagery of the album cover also so fitting. All this color, all this play on black and white and light and dark and colors, yellow and red. A lot of that integrated in the album cover. Those colors are reaching out to me. Red and yellow then came to be, right? This thing started becoming. And that's encouraging or beautiful also to hear it that way. It's not necessarily, it can't necessarily be forced. These things come to be, things develop. And our mind gets opened. We start looking at the world, at God, at the universe in different ways as we develop. They come to be, they develop. It's part of the natural organism and way of things. Reaching out to me lets me see. Very fitting to the eye, the imagery. As below, so above and beyond, I imagine. And that is beautiful lingo, because I imagine makes me think of the parts of us that longs for more. It's beyond just knowing or learning or being told something is just so. It taps into that imagination, which does make me think of infants and kids who are very good at imagining. It makes me think of people who are not just happy with the way that we're told things are. Then the line is above, so below is a powerful concept that was also embraced by Jung and famous occult practitioners. Carl Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist and psychotherapist, said No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. This idea of as above, so below, basically saying that's what existence is about. This idea that there's a mirror connection between different levels of reality, the tangible physical world, the spiritual world, and things we can't see, suggesting that there are patterns and laws in the universe, the macrocosm, that are also reflected in the microcosm, in the individual or earthly realm. This idea of universal unity. It's a concept that is derived from ancient Hermetic texts, and notably the Emerald Tablet, and is very central in occult and mystical beliefs. And this is one of the reasons why I most likely would have not listened to something like this back in the day. And now I see this, and it doesn't scare me nearly as much, because I see a lot of beauty in considering that we only see and understand a fraction, and that maybe things are just so much more connected. To then say, drawn beyond the lines of reason, push the envelope, watch it bend. And it makes me think of these movies where it plays with reality and time and space. There are so many, from The Matrix to, what is it called again? Inception. Yeah, Inception. Dreams like Inception and The Matrix. This play on movement and time and space and concepts. This idea of things can bend if you push the envelope. But also the phrase of pushing the envelope, the indicator of going against the status quo, pushing beyond what you're told things are or what you're allowed to say on question. Overthinking, overanalyzing separates the body from the mind. Now here's where it's powerful, and I may start crying because obviously I love to analyze. This is literally one of the things I do for a living. But here to say overthinking separates the body from the mind, it's so powerful to me, because the concept of as above, so below, this concept that everything might be a mirror of one or the other and vice versa, and it's all connected, is so profound to me that it makes me want to get lost in it. It makes me want to think about it, analyze it, and understand it. But ironically, the paradox, the dichotomy is that just as much as we're encouraged to spiral out and to keep digging and reaching for these things, we also have to understand that when we overthink it, it separates body from mind. By doing so, by trying to understand the connection between body and mind and spirit, and trying to understand the Hebrew word nephesh is the word for soul, as in a whole living being. As we're trying to understand these aspects and how connected they are, by overanalyzing and trying to control and hold on to it, we're actually causing that same division of said body and mind. We're going against the natural order of things. And it's such a dichotomy to me, because I think, well, if there's more than what I can comprehend, and if the answers I've been given in the past don't suffice, and if everything is so much more powerful and bigger, then I want to grasp that. But ironically, by doing so, I'm having the averse effect, the separation of body and mind, withering my intuition, missing opportunities, and I must feed my will to feel my moment. Beautiful word language here about that duality, feeding the will to feel the moment. Often feeling and will are contrasted, right? You either have to will it and do it, or you feel it, and you're told don't be controlled by your feelings. And the other flip side is use your will, right? Your mind over heart, mind over matter, right? We often see how these things are contrasted. And a lot of that either or lingo is very common in especially Western society. When we look at existential phenomenology, often language will fall short, because a lot of our Western languages don't really have words for this kind of mindset. We use either or, and or, also, but, right? We use language that often looks at things as in contrast to. And it's not even in our vocabulary, literally, to grasp the idea of connectivity and connection. And so instead of contrasting will and emotions, to say I need to feed my will to feel my moment. One thing is required for the other. These are not juxtapositioned opposite things. Withering my intuition, trying so hard to analyze it withers my intuition. I'm going against these opportunities. I must feed my will to feel my moment, drawing my way outside the lines. And here we're seeing that play on the lateral. Instead of just going horizontal or vertical and trying to draw within the lines, we're pushing the envelope, we're drawing outside, we're spiraling. A lot of sacred geometry here, a lot of play on Eastern religions and mysticism, where the mandalas and these cyclical patterns are a big part of. Black and white are all I see in my infancy. The chorus goes back, and it sees there's so much more and beckons me to look through these infinite possibilities. Overthinking, overanalyzing, and again, it speaks of that separation. Reaching out to embrace the random. reaching out to embrace whatever may come. That level of peace with God and man and oneself, to understand, I don't know. I know that I don't know, and that's okay. And I'm safe in this place, and I'm searching, and I'm stretching, and I'm feeding my will, and I'm feeling, and I'm wanting to learn, but I'm also not overthinking it. That duality again. I want to learn. I am reaching out. I am pushing the envelope, and also I'm releasing. It's beautiful. I embrace my desire to feel the rhythm, to feel connected, enough to step aside and weep like a widow. My gosh, I appreciate this, because to me, this speaks of more than just sitting there going, kumbaya, let me meditate all day and night. And a person who has responsibilities feels that pull towards day-to-day life and might see this, hear this, and go, yeah, that sounds nice in theory, but hello, I got to feed the kids. Existentially, we have that pull between freedom and responsibility. We long to sit at the beach and sip on that cocktail and get lost in the oceans. And we long to understand life and be able to go off of whatever we're feeling and feeding the will. But responsibility is part of that yin and yang. It is part of life. And so it would be easy to dismiss this and say, well, that doesn't sound realistic. And instead here I have lyrics that also speak of a lot of humanity, stepping aside and weeping like a widow, feeling the rhythm to feel connected. It's beautiful as the music was playing, as the composition was rising. It took us on this journey. Tools does not just make regular music. It's really not your typical song, verse, chorus, verse, chorus. It's this experience. It's almost like a spiritual experience, very emotional, very stimulating. And you don't have to call it spiritual if you don't want to. We can call it scientific and just look at how the various instruments and chord progressions and time signature switches and pauses in between affect the psyche. Of course, there's science also to how it affects our brain and what parts of the brains are triggered and how we use which parts. And then, of course, it's also influenced by our personality, culture, view of the world. But nonetheless, even their composition here fits so well to these lyrics. This pause, the crescendo, the drums, the guitar just going off on its own like it just was a whole masterpiece in and of itself. The bass lines, phenomenal. But here, speaking of weeping like a widow, to me, a conversation about the humanity of things. It's not just hippy-tippy, get lost in the clouds. It's also saying, I will allow myself to feel, to weep like a widow. And a widow goes through immense turmoil. A widow or widower, people who've lost someone, anyone who's lost someone to death, who has to face that exact duality of life and death and beauty and pain and the beginning and the end of something, and as above, so below. When someone dies, that is the time we're most faced with a lot of these questions and with our desire to make a lateral sense of things. Give me a foundation. Let me find an answer for this. And often we do, right? We look to religion, we look to people for their theories on where this person went, on what's going to happen to me, and there can be comfort in that. I think the risk is if we use it in order to not face the pain and the fear and the questions. I think it can be comforting to think of an afterlife and a heaven and God and these things. I think that can be wonderful. And also, I think it should be used not to separate body from mind, not to just dismiss what we're feeling, but allow ourselves to feel the pain, to weep like the widow, without now overthinking and separating body and mind. This is a circle. It's a circle. It's a spiral. Oh my gosh, to feel inspired, to fathom the power, to witness the beauty, to bathe in the fountain, to swing on the spiral, which is beautiful because often I imagine this swing, or often swings are just that, this lateral contraption that you sit on. Unless it's, I guess, a tire swing where you can now go in circles as you're going up and down. But a spiral, this beautiful picture that it's really not just up and down. It's really not just forward and backward. It goes in circles as it goes up, as it goes down. It's so all things at the same time. Swing on this spiral of our divinity and still be human. My gosh! With my feet upon the ground, I lose myself between the sounds and open wide to suck it in. I feel it move across my skin. I'm reaching up, I'm reaching out. A beautiful play on that idea of lateral and horizontal and vertical. I'm reaching for the random or whatever will bewilder me. Such a love for life, I think, is absolutely beautiful in the face of death. When we, again, even if we find comfort in the idea of heaven or the afterlife and all these things, when we look at death and we're many of us are honest with themselves. Afterlife, hope, all these other things aside for a second, it is painful, the idea that this life will end. It is painful if you've lost someone, and it is painful to think of our own deaths. And in the face of death, and all the questions that come with that, and all this search for who am I? Why am I here? What's the meaning of life? There's something so, in my mind, therapeutic to completely live life fully. And what does that look like? That I make as much money as possible, that I find the most beautiful person to marry, that I listen to music as much as possible. Of course, it'll be different things to different people. But I think here, to say I'm reaching out for whatever will bewilder me is beautifully worded, because I think it makes me think of a child. And this is a beautiful full circle to the first conversation about infancy. It makes me think of children who are so bewildered and in awe of life. They are so in awe when they see things for the first time. And if we could only look at things as if we're seeing them for the first time, tasting them, feeling them, experiencing them, as if it was the first time, but also as if it might be our last. This idea of bewilderment. Bewilderment makes me think of being in awe, but also confused and amazed. It's both and. It's this question mark with speechlessness, with an exclamation mark, with a semicolon. It just is. It just is. And when we learn to be, to actually allow ourselves just to sit there and be, what a beautiful thing to do in the face of the fact that it will end one day. The more bewildered we are, the more we take it all in. Just the smallest thing, the most random thing, the seeminglyest, weirdest thing that we take for granted. The taste of things. Bewilderment. I think that adds so much value and quality to life. And following our will and wind, we may just go where no one's been. That desire to explore, to pierce through frontiers, and to push that envelope till it bends. Spiral out, keep going. And here like I said, I found comfort in these words. Keep going. Spiral out, keep going. It makes me think of, the opposite when people are crashing out, this common modern lingo that people use when they're saying, they had like a meltdown. To spiral out it also makes me think of when people are, doing drugs and they're completely spiraling out and just... and I'm not saying go do that. Please don't. But I'm saying I like this idea. I'm comforted by this idea of spiraling out, keep going, as in continue to reach out for what bewilders you. Continue to ask questions. Continue to consider that we don't understand it all. And that's okay. That you're safe in that. That is all connected. This is freaking impressive and powerful and beautiful. Oh my gosh. Tool just keeps, goodness gracious. What's next? What am I going to review by Tool next? Subscribe for more music from around the world. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for hanging out. If you stayed this long and you were geeking out with me to Tool into the philosophies and spirituality, thank you. You're my people. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you on the next ride. Heyo.